Hillary Clinton, as I did a breaking news segment about yesterday, sat for her deposition in front of the House Oversight Committee led by James Comer relating to Epstein. And as we enter into this, it somehow backfired so badly that Melania got terrible news. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I think it was originally JoJo from Jers on X who said something to the effect of, but then it was Politics Girl on CNN who pointed this out. You have the three of the people mentioned the most in the Epstein files are Epstein, okay, Ghislaine Maxwell, all right, Trump, Epstein, dead, Maxwell, prison, Trump, president. But we're bringing in Hillary Clinton before we bring in Trump to be asked about Epstein? Wait. Isn't this also supposed to get to the bottom of, aside from just more information about Epstein and the people that surrounded him and maybe seeing more transparency and justice, shouldn't this investigation led by Republicans that was really just an effort by them to go, hey, we care about it too, but then create alternative headlines that don't have Trump in them for once? Wouldn't it be important to get to the bottom of what has been botched about the handling by the government of these files? And if you're going to do that, the impediment to transparency, which is supposed to be the goal of this investigation, is currently, right now, in this moment, still happening. It's still being covered up by Trump. Why wouldn't you be hauling him and all of his administration officials in, at least before you bring in the Clintons? And then if you're going to bring in a Clinton, which they're bringing in Bill Clinton, okay, a little bit more of a reason there. You have lots of examples of Bill Clinton having a relationship with Epstein. Why is Hillary in there? And apparently a lot of what they were asking her was, what do you feel about Bill Clinton's relation? What? The priorities are all whacked here. And this, what we'll start with, seems to be an example of an epic backfiring on the part of Republicans. Because if you think to yourself, if you're setting the precedent that former presidents, maybe even current presidents, and their spouses could be a part of these hearings, wouldn't that include Melania? Because I can tell you there's a lot more photos of Melania with Jeffrey and Ghislaine than there are of Hillary. And that's what comes up here. Investigators threatened to grill Melania over Epstein leaks. Donald, why have you done this to me? Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button. The simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video. So my point in saying this, as we'll go through a bunch of information updates after this deposition, total chaos, maybe would describe the YouTube title version of it. The reason I'm bringing this up to you is because Republicans thought they were doing a good job of taking attention away from Trump and his handling of this topic, which is the most pressing issue, given that it's currently the impediment to transparency, thus justice, by going, greatest hits? Do we go after Hillary? Could we ask her about Benghazi again? And apparently they even asked her about UFOs. What? What does that have to do with anything right now? And it actually blew up in their face.
Immediately. Congressman, our understanding is that the former secretary was asked about her feelings regarding Bill Clinton's relationship and friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and also what she...
Why is Hillary always having to answer for... They never think it's fair for Melania to be grilled about Trump. They're like, oh, whatever, let her just do her thing and make her hats. But then they're always grilling Hillary about Bill's adventures. I mean, I still remember her having to answer for Monica. Okay? And maybe that's more of a question for Bill.
Knew about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. By that standard, Congressman, why wouldn't you also ask First Lady Melania Trump about what she knows or knew about the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
Right.
Well, I think that's the question, because right now, the House Republicans have set a new precedent. And that new precedent now includes bringing in for depositions presidents, former presidents, and first ladies, and then asking those first ladies, as they did yesterday, about how their husbands felt and about what their husbands were doing, which, quite frankly, some of the questioning yesterday was not appropriate. I think the public will see that when the transcript is fully released. But yes, there's a precedent now. We now want President Trump to come in and to testify under oath in front of the Oversight Committee. We want the First Lady, who we know had a relationship as well with Jeffrey Epstein, to come in under oath and testify to the Oversight Committee. That is the new precedent that Republicans wanted to set here. And so we want to move forward in this investigation. They should do the right thing.
So what did I say in the breaking news segment yesterday? By the way, if you're an avid viewer of the full show, great, love you. That's it, baby. But you can look out for breaking news, little videos whenever I'm home and not at the studio and I just want to quickly record something. We'll be trying to do more of those now. But that's what we referenced, which is, hey, there's no problem with me about bringing in anyone, Democrat, Republican, independent, fiscally conservative, socially liberal. You can haul in anybody. And we can call out whenever you're being partisan. We can call out when you're obviously trying to distract from the person you're trying to protect, when we're not trying to protect anybody. And if you want to set that standard, go for it. Where first ladies, former first ladies, presidents, former presidents can be hauled in, then you best be hauling in the guy who's been directing this cover-up. That would seem obvious. But Republicans have been doing everything possible to not do that by saying, well, Trump answers lots of questions about this during press gaggles. That's not under oath. Hillary also addressed it in a BBC interview, but that wasn't enough for you. You wanted it under oath. You wanted to be able to ask the questions you wanted to ask. And I think it's perfectly fair for Democrats to demand, now that the precedent has been set, to bring in the much more relevant people, let's be honest. And then put anyone on that list that you want, sure. Bring me in. I'll answer questions. I don't know what that would be helpful with, but I'll answer anything you like. Now, as I referenced in the breaking news segment, Hillary Clinton posted her opening statement, and this was kind of the first bomb that she dropped that was an indicator of how this could backfire. I won't read it to you again, but essentially she goes through and uses this extra platform that they've given her to go, all right, you want to drag me into this? Here's what I'm going to use it for. And she brutally called out the cover-up and the shameful behavior from Trump and how seriously she takes this, contrasted against how Trump has been trying to characterize it as a hoax. You also have Robert Garcia saying this.
It's just so interesting that Republicans were so obsessed with being there today, not making it public, yet not a single Republican, not a single one, would join us last week at the deposition of Les Wexner, who was the largest financier, the person that provided Jeffrey Epstein with almost all of his wealth. Not one could attend that deposition, yet they all came today to answer the questions over and over again.
As Secretary Clinton was answering questions, did she plead the fifth at all today?
She did not plead the fifth at any time today. She answered every single question that she was asked, which I think is appropriate, and we're glad that she did. I just think it's unfortunate that we began asking her questions about UFOs and aliens. I mean, let's be serious at this moment. We have survivors that need answers, and the truth, that's where the focus should be.
Can you imagine Lauren Boebert sitting there and being like, while I have you, are aliens here? Are you an alien? Then on this topic, you have a photo. So we already heard the documentation related to allegations against Trump of rape that got removed from the files. Suspicious. Then you have Howard Lutnick, who just ever so briefly, well, the story initially was, right?
Gross.
Went to his apartment, next door neighbor, whoopsie, and said, what up, brother? And then he was like, oh, you want to get a massage? I do the right side of massages. And then I looked at my wife and I said, we will never be in the same room with that man again. Wait, I mean after the next 13 years when we hang out a lot. Then we'll never be. Okay, so that was Howard Lutnick's original thing. Then we find out he went to the island and he's like, guys. I took my family. We barely even, could you even call it going on the island? We just quickly went to a little port. We had a quick lunch. I zipped out of there. Then this photo gets posted of Howard Lutnick. You can see even way back then was already struggling on the hair front. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. We love our hairless folks. But you can see there zooming in. How long ago did this start, dude? No, I'm totally kidding. We love it. We love it a lot. We don't love the photo, but the hair is fine. That's not the problem. And so you can see him there hanging out with a bunch of dudes. Maybe this was a part of that same trip with his family. He was getting a little tour, whatever.
Deep nuance of Howard Lutnick.
But he went to the island, so now we know even more. Now we have it on a photo that he was lying. Okay, he admitted that. Then they deleted this photo from the files. Whoever's doing that, it doesn't work. It gets downloaded by people the second it gets published. Stop doing this publish and then delete thing. Because all it does is make us go, huh? What? Well, now we need to focus on this even more. A reminder that way back when we saw the original Howard Lutnick, Jaden finally dug up this video of me. This is from way back, the first interview before we knew any of Lutnick's connections with Epstein. Just while I was watching that interview in the moment before any of this came out, I called it.
And I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Guys, from what I've learned from crime shows, there is something suspicious about giving so much detail. Howard Lutnick, the New York Times reports, President Trump, and then podcast listeners, then this edit, this thermonuclear viral edit that we made cuts to the present day. So that was before we knew anything, and I said, he's giving too much detail. That's suspicious. And then, boom. Trump's billionaire commerce secretary interacted with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein regularly over at least 13 years. Records released last week by the Justice Department show. They invested in the same privately held company together.
For business.
Dealt with one another on neighborhood and philanthropic issues.
Philanthropy.
And appear to have socialized in New York and the Caribbean.
Socially?
Guys, it's like he knew the three terms that were going to be used. How did he list it that perfectly? I didn't do anything in philanthropy, business, or social. And then the article is, documents reveal he worked with Epstein on philanthropy, business, and socializing. Whoa, dude, this lie is too obvious. So you have James Comer being asked, any chance you're going to ask Lutnick about this? If Hillary, who's kind of like second degree of separation from who you actually have more documentation of a relationship with, would you ask Lutnick anything? And what we're learning is that Lutnick is now a fair target for these Republicans. They're going, all right, we got to throw someone under the bus. Let's make it Lutnick.
One more question. In the spirit of bipartisanship, would you then ask the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to come testify? It seems like he has some information.
That's very possible, and I think I think it's a good possibility that his name will arise in some questioning today.
It'll be on my list, and I have an email I printed off for Hillary to ask about Howard Lutnick today. So
guys, watch it.
Yeah, so it's possible, and within the context of being possible, there is a possibility that they'll ask him some real tough questions. But I think that's actually more likely, obviously way more likely than Trump being hauled in, because apparently, this is crazy. Okay, you're not gonna believe this. Okay. Apparently, Trump is souring on Howard Lutnick, despite liking him a lot previously. And you're thinking, oh, because he embarrassed the Trump administration by lying so obviously about his relationship with Epstein and him being caught literally in a photo on the island? No. Why do you think Trump is souring on Lutnick? Because he feels weird that Lutnick is using his office to monetize his position. He's like, Lutnick is making so much money being in this administration. I'm the only one who's allowed to do that. Literally, then there was more reporting about how Trump gets so annoyed when anyone around him is making a bunch of money off of their position, because that's his job. He's supposed to be sucking all of the milk out of that proverbial cow's teat. And he's sick and tired of Lutnick sucking on the teat that he's supposed to be sucking on. Whole milk, whole with a W. Remember what I referenced, which is that you had these removed documents about allegations against Trump, but no need to fear. We do have news that the DOJ is going to review whether Epstein files about Trump were improperly withheld. The DOJ, led by Pam Bondi. The DOJ, the person who screamed, why are you talking about Epstein when the Dow is at 50 thou? Yeah, that makes me feel better. So guys, if you feel like, Lutnick's being suspicious, Trump is being suspicious, it's okay. Comer's going to investigate Lutnick, and Pam Bondi will investigate Trump. It'll be all in the up and up. Comer was also asked about that reporting.
Are you concerned that there has been a cover-up of sexual abuse of a minor by President Trump that are missing FBI records that appear to be?
No, we're looking into the accusation by the NPR. We don't know the answer to that. We know what the administration says. We're still looking to get a definitive answer on that.
Are you concerned?
Okay. All right. Thanks, James. Thanks as always. Clear and concise as always. Then you have this.
Secretary Clinton said in her opening statement, if Republicans were serious about investigating Jeffrey Epstein, that you would call President Trump to testify. Why won't you?
Well, President Trump has answered hundreds, if not thousands, of questions from you all about Epstein, and I think he's been very transparent in releasing the documents. We expect hopefully more documents to come in.
Okay, let me explain this difference. When I was getting ready to pop the question, to ask Michael to be my boyfriend, okay, I said, hey, we need to go into the house, and then he was like, why? You're acting weird. Is there a surprise? And I said, no. That's the equivalent of Trump getting asked questions in the press. Then he said, pinky swear. And I said, okay, yes, there's a surprise. That's the difference between being under oath. Does that make sense? That's the difference, right? Once you whip out the pinky swear is the equivalent of under oath. Then the lies can be prosecutable. And let me tell you, Michael would have prosecuted the hell out of me if I had lied under pinky swear. Hillary Clinton came out after her deposition saying this.
Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew. I'm laughing because she's like, I asked all of their questions, like obviously so annoyed. And what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance. But whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements.
So to fill you in, Hillary said, let's make this open to the public. What the hell? Let's do it. And then the Republicans were like, no, which I don't understand why. Do it live. So then they had to follow the private behind closed doors rules. But then Lauren Boebert whips out her phone and takes a photo of Hillary and posts it. So then they have to halt the deposition because it's like, well, you just broke a rule. You guys demanded this to be private, and then now you're breaking the rule. What other rules will you break? So then Boebert got asked, why'd you do that? And she was like, I liked her blue dress.
Why did you send the picture? Why did you send the picture?
Why not? Woo! Same way she answered when someone said, why were you pummeling the crotch of a man next to children at Beetlejuice? What was that about? Why not? Woo! I guess she'd have a similar response to, why were you asking about UFOs in this deposition?
How do we get to the bottom of what's going on by asking Hillary Clinton about UFOs and Pizzagate? Lauren?
Well, those topics did come up, and there are things within the Epstein file that leads to these questions.
The Epstein file. One file. Here's the Epstein file. It's Trump's portrait. That's the whole file.
These files open up a whole mess, a whole trove of questions to go down. And, Hillary Clinton being connected so tightly with John Podesta, who's connected with Anthony Weiner. And
Anthony Weiner!
all of these things, they all kind of tie together, especially when you're talking about women who are being...
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome for the first time, Mr. and Mrs. Wiener.
Trafficked. So this isn't to highlight some big, vast conspiracy about a pizza parlor, but I think there needs to be questions, and I asked some questions on this topic that should be explained. There wasn't an explanation given, of course, and then other members
about
certainly asked
Pizzagate?
about UFOs. I'm sorry?
And UFOs? Like, what did you want to know about UFOs and Pizzagate?
Well, I think everybody
that
wants
would
to know
matter
about
to survivors?
UFOs. I did not ask that question, but I mean, there certainly are questions out there, and there was connections within the Epstein files that led to those questions. There are 3 million files there. You can go a lot of different ways with
I know,
the
but it's
information
like,
that's in there.
You know, if we want people to take this seriously and believe it's not a fishing
She
expedition,
actually
it's like
seemed
somewhere
pretty inquisitive about it. She was interested herself.
I'm sure.
What do you mean Hillary's... she was interested? She was very inquisitive. I just learned the word inquisitive. What was that dynamic? Bobo's like, are UFOs real? And Hillary's like, oh, I don't know. Do you think they're real? This is fun. Kind of redonkulous. Then you have, just to show you the way she really was even publicly, more substance. Can you imagine if Trump answered questions like Hillary's answering them here? I gotta be honest, I don't know the total truth about every single person who ever engaged with Epstein, and plenty of the people it was really just a business venture or philanthropy or socializing, as Howard would put it, and there wasn't anything malicious. You can judge people for associating too late, where we knew who the type of guy was, but again, yes. And if you were to say, what does innocence look like? You would point to Hillary's responses. Maybe she's just nailing being dishonest. We don't know. But that you would point to substantively examining the history of, and she's doing a lot of referencing her husband's relationship, which isn't really her job, but whatever, actually engaging with the questions. Whereas Trump just goes, well, this is just a lie. We should move on.
You spoke in your opening remarks about how heartbroken you have been for the Epstein survivors as these files have come out. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you have processed and reacted to the fact that the former president, your husband, Bill Clinton, is referenced in the Epstein files numerous times, including in some photos featuring women? And how have you been personally preparing for the deposition that is coming tomorrow? Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that the former president knows about Epstein's crimes?
I am, and I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what...
Okay, so then track down, was there later interactions, all that, bum, but at least you have something to engage with as opposed to just, this is a hoax. And I do think that's very meaningful and should be noted.